I'm Cindy Loza, Managing Editor of Member Content for the Path to Purchase Institute. Retail Media Summit is right around the corner. Soon, P2PI will bring together the commerce marketing community for an annual event dedicated to helping CPG brands and retailers navigate the complicated, rapidly shifting media landscape. During the event, we'll also honor 25 innovative leaders and trailblazers in retail media through our Retail Media Awards program. I'm delighted to welcome two of our winners this year, Threefold's Matt Lee and Evan Hovorka with Albertsons Media Collective, to share their thoughts and insights on what will sure be a topic of discussion at the event, measurement. Evan, Matt, thank you so much for joining us to discuss such a hot and important topic. Before we dive in, can you tell us a bit about your roles at your companies? Evan, let's start with you.
Thank you, Cindy. Happy to be here. Yeah, I'm the Vice President of Product Innovation for the Albertsons Media Collective, which is our retail media arm, coupled with our 2,200 plus stores, pharmacies, and gas stations. And so my role is really to bring innovations in all things media, measurement, partnership to market, and do so in a way that supports our primarily CPG brand customers, but also agencies and non-endemic customers.
Want me to shoot? Hi, I'm Matt Lee, and I'm the one of the founders of SMG, a group of agencies which includes Threefold, focused on retail media. And my role is to drive the growth of our network and our people and our capabilities.
Great. Well, thank you both again for being here with me today. So let's kick things off. I don't have to tell both of you that it's been an exciting time in the commerce marketing community and to be a commerce marketer these past couple of years. What has the rise of retailer media networks looked like from your seat?
I can go first again, Matt.
Yeah.
Switch it up on the next one. The rise of retail media. Well, from our perspective at the Albertsons Media Collective, we've seen tremendous growth internally with our merchants, with our site and app team in supporting this new revenue stream. So this diversified, unique way of generating revenue for a retailer. You know, it's been popular for 4 or 5 years, but it's been around much longer than that. So depending on where you started, this rise could have taken place a few years ago or maybe close to a decade ago. But what we're seeing is more seamless integration across the customer journey. So I think in the beginning of retail media, we had single siloed channels. And now we're seeing continuity in terms of creative planning and strategy through our media ops teams, and even budget and agency conversations that help connect a brand's story to all parts of the customer journey, whether or not the retail media network is solely running at 100%, or if they're supporting an agency or an in-house team for that brand. There's a lot more flexibility and partnership. It's partly supported with technology, which we'll get into on later today's conversation, but it really is letting the retail media network shine as bright as possible across all the channels that they touch.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Retail media has just completely exploded. You know, in the last few years. I personally have been in it since the very late 90s, early 2000s. And we started the SMG group, which Threefold is part of, in 2008. Really, our founding principle was to make retail media an investment choice for brands, because we believe, you know, if it's done well, then actually it's more effective than many traditional channels. And that's why this conversation is so exciting, really, because, you know, what is well, it's well, measurement helps you drive that performance. If you know what works and what doesn't work, you can invest more in the things that do work, and it's a flywheel effect of driving the performance of channels, and therefore the performance of the investment that brands make. It should be really regarded as an investment. They are the customers of this media, and so we've really are, you know, totally focused on measurement from the get-go, which allows us to help both retailers and brands. Retailers from like what should be in your portfolio, what works, how should you price it, how can you deliver a brilliant service for your brands, but also from the brand perspective, the same thing, which channels work for your categories. And that, you know, different channels work differently for different categories. So there's not such a thing as good and bad retail media. It depends on what you use it for, when and how, and importantly, how it's priced in terms of how how well it works. So standardization is something we've been driving in the UK for years, but the Albertsons Media Collective have done an amazing job with the IAB in the US at putting measurement and the understanding of its importance on the map in the US market.
Great. Now, there's been a wave of new RMNs in the marketplace these past few years, and retailers investing more in their retail media solutions. What are some of the challenges that naturally came up from this? Evan, we can start with you again.
Yeah, I'll pull from Matt's last comment,
Yeah.
and thank you for the shout out on our IAB support for formalizing standardization with IAB. I think that is in service of what all product teams aspire to do, which is remove friction from our customers' life. And so, in the world where retail media is growing, and each unique retail media network can have different KPIs, different clean room strategies, even different levels of loyalty adoption and identification at point of sale, it creates friction for the customer, because instead of getting a standardized set of KPIs, they're maybe looking at 5, 10, or 15 different reports. That could be a different attribution window, something as simple as just a tweak in how they use modeled or grossed up results. We at the collective do not gross up our results because of the high identity of our loyalty program. But if I'm thinking of the brand's perspective and where friction could be introduced to my life, it's trying to make sense of those 10 or 15 different languages that come back at the end of the campaign. And so leaning into standardization is a great way to remove friction from customers' lives. And I think selfishly for retail media networks, this is us representing ourselves collectively as an industry, right? Yes, there's competition within that, but ultimately, if the opportunity as a whole, retail media networks as a whole, becomes too much, adds too much friction to the machine, either through pricing or inconsistencies, then brands have to look for alternatives. And so we're not there yet, but why not get ahead of that curve and think compassionately in service of our clients and our customers, and get ahead of that friction removal, so that we can continue to see the investment growth that we've seen over the last couple of years.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of the biggest challenge that I've seen throughout my journey in retail media, it's kind of cultural, and it's also about expectation. It's about retailers understanding that they're now the service provider. And that means that, and there are now hundreds of them. So from a brand point of view, the opportunities are finite, and retailers culturally are obsessed with differentiation. If you look at all their sort of premium ranges, they all call them different names, and they've taken that through into retail media in the UK market. Every single channel in like every retailer is called a different thing, even though it's the same banner on the website, or, barker on the shelf. It's a ping or a wobbler, or because they're just obsessed by differentiation. But that's kind of like the last thing that they need, because it needs to be simple for the customer. In this case, the customer isn't the person that walks into store or goes online and adds some milk and bread and cheese to their basket. Yeah, it's a brand advertiser who's making an advertising investment choice when they could do TV or radio or press or any other type of advertising. So it's really, retailers, I think a big barrier is that kind of cultural need to differentiate. Here they actually need to standardize, not just in measurement, but in what they call things, how it's accessible, so it's easily buyable. But they also need to culturally understand that they're the service provider, and but a retailer has traditionally had an expectation, like if the brand spends $100,000, they expect 120 next year. Well, the brand might give them 200 if the campaign is worth 200, if it works well. So it's that focusing on their customer, which is a different type of customer, that I think is a real challenge culturally for retailers.
No, I think you nailed it, Matt. The disciplines and behaviors, even the skill sets within traditional retailers, are different than what you might consider a very ad tech focused retail media network. And I think that point of differentiation was a point of pride for many in the beginning, like, oh, I've got this great partnership with Disney, but you can't do the same thing at NBCU. But then this other RMN will be the exclusive partner with Roku, but then that doesn't work for any of the other streaming services. And trying to navigate that chaos, if you're a single brand that sells across multiple, I mean, great, you can do this very beautiful CTV. Maybe it has shoppable, maybe it doesn't. Maybe that shoppable is measured differently than this one. But trying to apply a consistent strategy to bring it to market with all that differentiation, I mean, it's very difficult. So, and the good news is when we standardize, I think it removes a lot of burden from the retail media network too. We're engineering something for the first time almost always requires some partnership. Let's say it's LiveRamp or Google or the Trade Desk. And if we could engineer it once for the industry and then let our data and our sales and our people be the differentiator, we can build it once, make it standardized, have everyone support it the same, and not be in this collection of Frankenstein products living together. So I think that's a future we can achieve with IAB's help and with the compassionate leadership of some of our bigger retail media networks.
Great. And staying on this topic of what is your approach to measurement standardization? I know we kind of alluded to this a bit without what Albertsons is doing. Can you, Evan, can you elaborate a bit more on what Albertsons Media Collective has done to push measurement standardization forward?
Yeah, this is where things get a little choppy, right? We are fortunate to have such a highly adopted loyalty program, which means all of our digital behaviors, in-store behaviors are tied back to this common identity graph. And when people think of the value of retail media network, that's the core of it. It's the same person, online, offline, and then even off-platform and on-platform through identity graphs. That is also the backbone of our measurement solution. No big surprise. But retail media networks have a varying degree of sophistication and completeness in their loyalty programs. And so massive companies out there that might be one of the biggest RMNs are transacting on 50% cash or 50% unidentified transactions. Still massive value in participating in that, but they're forced to gross things up and model up results to account for the cash trans that don't have a loyalty card swiped. And then others are 100% digital, where they have identity across everything, but nothing off platform, nothing offline, I should say. So we're bringing a very open and transparent methodology to market. The code for our methodology machine is public, and we partner with the IAB to suggest that as an adoptable standard. I don't think there's only one adoptable standard. There could be 2 or 3 or 4. And an RMN could choose the one that best suits their loyalty program or the channels that they've chosen to support. As in addition, they could run their existing unique measurement solution right beside it. But then a brand could at least say, hey, if I want consistency across 5 RMNs, I'll use the ones that have this stamp of approval from a third-party industry standardization company. And at least I can speak the same language across those 5. And then if I want to get very specific, maybe that NBCU opportunity pops up, it's very unique, no one else can do it. I'm okay accepting a unique report for that structure because the opportunity is so great. So now I have to go shift gears and translate to this language, but it's worthwhile. But everything else, we're doing open web display, social, on-site search, off-site search, CTV. These channels are very similar, right? And again, it's all running on identity graph. It's all running on closed loop sales, online and offline. That's not what makes us special. So why do we have to have specialized measurement code for each one? And what makes it special is the people that go into it, right? The creative, the customer behavior, the unique loyalty programs that these retailers bring to market. I think we put our effort into making that shine and letting the standardization shine where it needs to, and that it would be in best service of the shopper and the customer.
Great. Matt, what are your thoughts here?
I mean, it's you've got a hell of a task in the US, which is obviously a market we're aggressively looking at and making strides in. But in the UK, we've been kind of spoiled for years because there are relatively few grocers. Basically, if you're, without insulting anyone inside, say the top 6-ish, you can cover most of the market. And we have much stricter or universally applied data laws, but also the market focus has been, especially in grocery, has been in store and online, less so of the offsite. Those are kind of all the channels which have really kind of driven the explosion and recognition of retail media. It's kind of I think there was a lot of confusion earlier in retail media. People thought that was what retail media was. It was kind of digital offsite stuff using retailer data. To me, that's the the icing and the cherry on the top. Kind of definitely the the cake of retail media is kind of the stuff that retailers already own. That's inventory on their websites and stuff in their stores, which is, the stuff in their stores is where in most grocers still, 90+% of their transactions happen. And that's pretty easy to measure in a standardized way. If you have by store, by day, product sales level data, you can quite easily create control groups if you know where your advertising is and where it isn't. And there is debate around how you create those control groups. The footprint has to be the same or similar. The assortment has to be similar, because otherwise you might have more opportunity to buy a different product. So there are all factors to take into account. Obviously, things like the promotions clearly have to be the same. That's the biggest kind of factor. But once you've done that, you can create really robust control groups, and that's pretty much done in the UK market. Although retailers do use very slightly different ways to that, and that's basically the whole foundation of our group of agencies, was to put measurement at the heart. And our technology Plan Apps measures like almost every campaign we do, or certainly every campaign that's measurable. So we've got tens of thousands of results, which creates the insight into what works and what doesn't. And we do that with test and control for the vast majority of channels. And we do that in a standard way across retailers. I think that's really, really important, because it's that standardization which drives the comparison. So you could argue all day long that my ruler is inaccurate, that it's only 11.75 inches, but I'm using that ruler to measure everyone in the same way. So, that's how we've achieved it in the UK market, but much, much simpler when you're talking really about 6 players and better and more universal data access. So, difficult job in the US for sure.
And what do you think are the next steps when it comes to measurement standardization?
Yeah, I mean, retail media is not alone in the struggles. You could make a very fair comparison to social media networks, right? There is a smaller group of them, but there's no consistency in almost anything across the big 5. And so there's enough unique value and supposedly differentiated behavior happening on those platforms to make it worthwhile, but it does create friction. And so we've got unique pathways, unique technology integrations, unique methodologies with each of those 5. I think the same solution for them could be applied to retail media network, which is, let's build a common clean room infrastructure. It doesn't mean all data commingles into some crazy co-op, but a repeatable pattern that could be enforced through safe and secure co-measurement. And I say social because they have to share the information back with retail media networks, with brands. Retail media networks have to share things back with brands, even beyond just the initial campaigns that they invest in. So things like supporting MMM and MTA through like API integration, whether or not all of those campaigns ran through the retail media network or ran through the managed service side of it, we can be in service of and build those data share agreements with our brands. And so Pinterest is a good example. This is old news now, but we were first to market with the closed loop clean room solution with Pinterest, where the first time they let the data we needed to do measurement into a clean room environment. I suspect others will follow suit. Certainly other RMNs will follow suit. Well, now's our opportunity to build consistency. Let's just have a common KPI, a common stamp of approval. It doesn't mean our competitors can't build another crazy KPI or something really special. But when things aren't special, or at least the baseline measurement KPIs should all be standardized. And when we've got these unique data integration opportunities like clean rooms, which is how a lot of measurements can be done, that would be the place to deploy standardization. So I think that's what comes next. And then Matt, you made me think of another one. RMNs of a certain size could certainly do consolidation. We see that through certain ad tech companies that are bringing together consistent solutions for like demand and supply and bringing in 10 or 20 smaller RMNs. They're forced to then adopt some of the standardization. Now, not everyone's going to follow that. Walmart certainly won't jump on board with that idea, but at least we're cleaning up the middle and the long tail with some easier to understand KPIs, or at least some consistent KPIs. So we are seeing that happen in the US in mid-long tail RMNs.
Yeah, no, I think that consistency is really key to allow brands to continue to choose. And as more and more competition entering the market, and not just retailers that actually sell the product, kind of environments that are kind of branding themselves as retail media, because retail media seems to be like the popular thing people want to invest in. But
Right.
they've got a real challenge, because it's much harder to actually drive the relevancy and not interrupt your customer experience if you're not the actual retailer that's selling the product. So and that goes for for retailers or for grocers that want to do non-endemic campaigns. There's a real there's value there, but it's got to be better than other choices that other brand can do. And it's also got to be relevant and not interrupt your shopping experience, because ultimately you don't want them to not shop with you and to go and do something else. However valuable that something else might be, eventually you'll have no business to commercialize. But it's, I think the retail media can really stand up to other opportunities for brands if it can demonstrate how well it performs. And the networks like Albertsons Media Collective, etc., that have that rich customer level data, where they can, through the loyalty program, map a customer over time, have an inherent advantage, and can start to bring like the kind of standards plus, where it's kind of like, well, actually you can see this customer, not only did you sell X number more packs, it was to Y number more customers that went on to buy X number of times. Because that's the reality in grocery. There are 40,000 products in an average large box grocery store, but the average loyal family buys less than 200 different ones in a year. So really, CPG is all about trial. Yeah, once someone's gone and bought that product, whether it's online or in store, and they've tried it, if they don't like it, that's the brand manager's fault for not making a tasty enough product, or a effective enough product, or whatever. That needs to go back to product development. If they like it, suddenly they've been through the experience of, they've found it in the shop, they've found it online, they've taken it home, they've enjoyed it or used it or found it effective, and then they'll go on to buy that many more times. So that's and potentially influence other people to buy it more times too. So new customer metrics and things like that, I think will be the differentiator really for people like the Albertsons Media Collective. It's great to just get everyone to a base standard, and they can take it to another level.
Oh, I love that, Matt. And Cindy, I might jump on a future question, but I just wanted to make the point that Matt is getting towards. It's not just media, right? There has to be another layer of the relationship unraveled and included in retail media networks. It's for good reason, though. The brands want the same things as the retailers, which is customers getting the right products. None of us are interested in selling that single item to a shopper who doesn't like it. For an auto seller, maybe that's okay. It's a 6-year, 10-year cycle. For us, we live and die on frequency. So it's almost disadvantageous for us to sell a product to a shopper if they don't like it. Now we've created an experience that's product focused, but they could extrapolate that to the store experience. So our merchants, our site team, our media network, and the brand all want that same thing: grow sales and loyalty of products to the people who want to buy them. And then there's lots of cases where people maybe haven't tried that new flavor, that new product. Maybe it was a price perception, and a coupon or a discount could make it make sense, or a recipe that inspires in the store. That next chapter of Retail Media Network can come to life in a really beautiful way. And we've done some of that at the Media Collective. Other RMNs are starting to unlock that door. But pulling our merchants and media mindset into a single conversation with the brands is how we can unlock some of that mutual benefit, without just talking transactionally on like a 6-week campaign cycle. Getting to that year-long strategy, 24-month strategy. Hey, we're going to actually launch a new product for you, and here's all the data you might need, brand, to give to your research agency. And we're going to dedicate end caps in the regions and demographic areas that you like. And we'll open up the door on things beyond media in terms of trends and insights to help launch that new product. Because if you launch a new product with us versus our competitor, great for media, great for merchants, great for shoppers, great for brands. So I think bringing the full brunt of the retailer to the conversation helps everybody in the retail media conversation.
Great. And I know we talked a lot about this, but what are ultimately some of the challenges that still need to be navigated or approached related to measurement and standardization? Matt, let's kick things off with you on this one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we're lucky and unlucky in that we have GDPR. I mean, lucky in that that provides a sort of a gold standard, which we know is there and we can work to. The US a bit more challenges, with state by state regulation and constantly changing. But in the UK, certainly the GDPR kind of sets that for so that really comes into effect when we're talking about technologies like clean rooms to help measure things that are a little harder to measure than the in-store activity. For the in-store activity, we don't need to know who it is to achieve a base level of understanding of what works and what doesn't. We need to know that an extra pack is sold. We just need to identify whether that is an extra pack or not by doing a test and control. That's not involving any personal data whatsoever, just store level sales data. So that's kind of easy. It gets much harder when we're trying to match customers, understand behavior from people those have been exposed to the advertising versus those that don't, when they're using social media channels or other things that we're measuring like that. So that becomes harder. But that's where the clean room technologies are assisting us to do that in a privacy compliant way. But that's certainly more of a challenge. I think in the US, you're achieving that only by kind of the lowest common denominator, as it were, or the highest common denominator, whichever way you look at it, trying to kind of do that. But over to you, sorry.
Yeah, I think that is how the approach should be handled here in the US. I think taking the lowest common denominator or the strictest policies, because often the other states are catching up. California is a leader in this space. And so if we assume they're setting the trend, let's just be the absolute best in honoring and acknowledging those rules. Because ultimately, our business is built on trust and confidence. So we need all of our systems to be defensible, privacy conscious, and sustainable into the future. So it actually then makes it easier. We don't have to get into state by state concerns, at least not yet. There's a much easier way just to apply the most strict rules to stay compliant. Clean rooms do enable a lot more things, but you did hit on a couple interesting points there too, Matt. Just because there is a one-to-one consented relationship, I mean, that is the defensible future of identity graphs as cookies deprecate and lots of these third-party data aggregators, data grifters get pushed out of market. You're going to be left with those that have the truth, and that truth will always have to come from consented shopper behavior, consented consumer behavior. Well, where does that exist? It's the point of purchase, because there's a loyalty program. Every step you take away from that point of purchase, which is the measurement goal that every brand CPG wants to track to, is a step towards harder to manage compliance and data that is not as high fidelity. But there is still room for cohorts and measurement at a market lift, demo, DMA lift. We try to go above that with the retail media network because the data allows us to. But there may be channels that make sense where we go into that more reduced capacity or reduced fidelity measurement tool. Digital out of home would be a good example. Or some of the in-store stuff where it's not a one-to-one identified behavior. But I think what the common underlying theme there is, have a toolkit filled with appropriate approved tools that your company and outside agencies, councils have approved for your local rules that govern wherever you're operating in, and then deploy that toolkit as needed to solve the measurement problems of each channel. So I think it's not even just channel by channel. Then there's omni-channel, there's the brand zone MTA and MMO models. There's a lot of measurement that goes beyond just the single channel, and those tools help you safely extend capabilities beyond just an owned and operated website, which would be much easier to manage. So it's a technology solution coupled with legal and privacy conversations, and then conversations with the clients. What do they want to do? What is their MMM integration model? What does their agency want to do for omni-channel if we want to tie all investment together? There's a lot of dialogue that still needs to happen in this industry, at least in the US, to unpack all of the customer needs before we get to measurement nirvana.
Now, Are there any new technologies that might help with measurement? I know we talked about clean rooms a couple times in this conversation.
I mean, I think that's the most promising.
Yeah.
LiveRamp's purchase of Habu was a stroke of genius. They had the identity graph. They had a lot of the audience deployment responsibilities already for a lot of the US retailers. So the targeting material was already part of that machine. The identity onboarding was already part of the relationship. And now here comes a clean room to close the loop. I think that was a wise decision, but they're not the only ones. There's InfoSum and other clean room companies out there, direct Snowflake integrations. I do believe, though, that is going to be a common topic in measurement solutions of the future. We'll likely have clean rooms. I mean, encryption and anonymization is certainly there, but it doesn't cover all the privacy concerns and risks. So then separation of who can see what and use what for each purpose, and then tracking a record of all of that is enabled through the clean room. So I have a lot of hope in both of those tools coming together. And we've deployed that in several channels, as have others, and it seems to be a working model.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo that, and then perhaps, if I'm allowed to do an absolute shameless plug, because there's all very well measuring everything, but then you just get a stream of fire hose of results, which you kind of need to be able to sift through and understand. And then in CPG, you tend to have brand managers and client handlers and customer relationship teams that change continually. So it's kind of like, oh, what did we do last year? And you're kind of asking someone over there in the office, and they go, oh, well, I did this, and how much did it cost? Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. I've got a presentation somewhere with a result, or I've got an email that's got a link to a report. And so what we did at the very beginning of our history back in 2008, start recording all of those. And we've got all those results for all the retailers, for all the brands we've done. So tens of thousands of results in a software platform called Plan Apps, which also helps you plan, measure, buy, do everything. But it's the knowledge management is actually the really critical part of that. And while there are plenty of people that are coming along with tech platforms that manage your inventory, if you haven't got tens of thousands of results history, people assume that we're some great salespeople, that we can change your retail media revenue because we sell harder. Absolutely not. It's because we sell the right things to the right brands, so they want to spend more money on it to grow their effectiveness. That's how we can change a retail media estate, and it's through Plan Apps, which is our platform that has got all those things. That allows you to digest and actually understand what's working and what's not, and make those choices. So that's what I would regard as a tech that's changing the way that helps. Obviously, as Evan said, the clean rooms are part of that journey in terms of creating the measurement, but you need to be able to understand what to do and what not to do as a result of lots of those bits of data.
Hey, and as RMNs continue to mature, do you think there will be a shift in what metrics brands use to evaluate the success of their retail media campaigns?
Most definitely. Matt's last comment is so important in answering that question, because if we just built a clean room and had the world's greatest measurement minds and code in there, and we're producing result sets that are kind of removed then from the media activation arm and the creative AI arms and all of the wonderful machinery that makes media operate, you're giving it to humans again and converting it to PowerPoint, and then a human will digest and disseminate, but we're infallible, right? And then the expectation is you carry that information to every other campaign execution moving forward. But the trends change so quickly, people change jobs so quickly. Having those measurement and insights and trends live in the machine, the way Matt, if I understood what you were saying, Matt, having it all just be part of the process, you can do real in-flight optimizations, still do your campaign wrap-up reports, but then you can trend that over time and carry all that automatically into the next campaign execution. And I didn't get into that detail in our answer, but that is one of the value props of the clean room. I mean, it's extra work that has to get built on top of it, but because it's already connected to the activation and the measurement and all of the media channels, that clean room should be able to learn and accelerate what a human can do on their own, enable them to do better, faster, more of the jobs that they've been hired to do, to achieve maybe not different KPIs in that part of the answer, Cindy, but more defensible and higher performing results in the same KPIs. the answer to the core of your question, though, yes, there's going to be new KPIs because there'll be new channel growth and new channel development happening constantly, right? We haven't seen a ton recently. We've got the TikTok channel gaining traction, streaming CTV video, OTT, all of the crazy acronyms that define TV do require unique KPIs and in some cases unique identity and partnerships. So I'd love to see some growth in a standardized modern currency to define video, something beyond GRPs and TRPs. I think that's long overdue. We're seeing some good traction from companies like iSpot to move the needle there. I think that's required because if you're taking a mix of RMNs and applying CTV investment into a mix of streaming services, you've got over 100 different permutations, and then trying to derive some sort of cohesive intelligence from any of that is going to be chaos. So we're pushing towards a linear currency standardization model there as well. And then any other channel that an RMN can bring up, fuel screens, in-store media, maybe it's recipe specific. We should be tracking those KPIs that are not there yet. They're complementary to, so they might be a new brand launch, that new shopper behavior, anything that the customer is looking for to help increase their insights. I think those KPIs will evolve as well.
Great. Matt, do you have any insights here?
Yeah, no, I referenced a little bit earlier in terms, I think the retailers that have the well-established loyalty programs with a high penetration can really, take the bar, once everyone's kind of agreed on the base, they can take the bar to the next level and really speak to kind of what the CPG brands ultimately want, which is, as I referenced, a trial. Once you have trial, you've got a chance of repeat. And if you look at that data I shared earlier, there's less than 200 products bought out of 40,000. That's less than 1% chance of trying this particular product. Once you've bought the product once, on average, and distrust averages, obviously they're dangerous things to believe in, but they give you an indication. You have a 35% chance of buying again. Once you've bought twice, you've got a 55% chance. Now that's an average across all categories, but it shows that basically you've got a more than 50% chance of buying something again once you bought it twice. So let's get it in the basket. Let's understand the lifetime value, because it's also the smart retailers are making their assortment choices by product loyalty and substitutability. If I buy a particular thick cut spiced marmalade, which is the only place I can get it is retailer A, and I spend $100 there every week, and suddenly they stop selling it, I'm going to find where they do sell it, and I might then find that I can do the rest of my shopping there too. So I might be the only person that buys it, but if I'm an important customer to that store, whereas if you just stop selling the 55th strawberry variety, I'll either buy a bigger pack, a smaller pack, the same size pack but in a different brand, and I'll leave the shop happy with my strawberry jam. So it's kind of it's very important to kind of really elevate the conversation of what's really important to brands, and that is ultimately brands aren't investing in this for the good of their health. They are doing it for the good of their health. They're doing it for for no reason. They're doing it to grow their brand, to sell more, and to be more sustainable, and to grow their businesses. Just like retailers want to grow their ad businesses because they want to find a way to grow margin. Well, if you do that sustainably in a way that works for your customers, then it's not that difficult.
Matt, we'll stay with you with the next question. What advice do you have for retailers or brands in this space right now?
Oof, gosh. Well, I think for retailers, you need to kind of understand that the brands are your customer, and just as you've obsessed for your whole existence around the customer that buys stuff from you, i.e. the consumer that buys the milk, the bread and the cheese, you need to kind of think about what does the brand want. You've got to make it remove the friction. As Evan said earlier, it's about removing friction for your customers. You remove the friction, and as there's way more competition, there's there keep being more hundreds of them. I'm not sure how many retail media networks there are. There are, obviously a certain core number of big ones, but it's a ridiculous number. And it's like, as a brand, you're never going to be able to be able to kind of get around those and reach all of those. And stop expecting brands to spend money. Start figuring out how you can make it really valuable and for them to invest money to grow. And if you change that culture, that will help you fly. From a brand perspective, I think you should be demanding the measurement, you should be demanding the transparency, you should be, and then place your dollar in the place you feel safest, that gets the best results, and be prepared to stand up to retailers that are trying to push you to spend money when there's no evidence it works, and so, no, sorry, I can spend it over here and I know I get this return. So separate that conversation from your commercial conversation. Have that obviously with the people kind of selling you, for want of a better word, the retail media, and work in collaboration. It's about it's not just about buying media or selling media. It's about coming up with innovative campaigns that excite and delight customers, that get them to buy things and try things that they go on to like and love. And so it's take the sort of transactional tension out of it. That would be my
Great. Evan?
Good answer. Yeah, I mean, that was beautiful. I will just add to that. We honor what Matt said with a couple of core mantras for the Media Collective at Albertsons. And that is, we move with a co-op garden approach. So in contrast to the walled garden, we'll keep everything on our side of the fence and tell you what you need to know. We have a very open and transparent, where it makes sense, relationship. Part of that includes flexibility in how brands and agencies want to buy. And so if someone's got a well-oiled machine running on a different DSP, and they feel capable of executing on their own, they want to use their own rate cards, their own inventory, their own creative, then we'll support that with a self-serve model. But then the other CPGs that want to do complete omni-channel and access our most premium inventory will allow the managed service to take route. But in both cases, we have to earn that investment. There's no it's a humble, hardworking relationship that we need to build to prove the value. To Matt's point, there's not an expectation that the dollars are coming, and so the products have to be built with that hyper-focused consumer perfection. And the consumer in this case is the CPGs, the agencies, and the non-endemics. We also have to deploy all of that in a way that enriches our shopper relationship, because that is the reason the retailer exists in the first place. The beautiful thing in that, though, which is unique to this industry, we all want the same thing. Shoppers want new products at proper prices that are in stock, available at their local stores. Brands want to launch new products. They want to sell to their loyalists. They want to incentivize as much as they need to get brand adoption. And then retailers, we're happy if people keep coming back on both doors, right? We'll take the CPG conversations as well as the shopper growth. And that could come in basket size or a number of shoppers, new demographics. So it's a flywheel that self-serves if everyone's wearing the proper hat, right? And I think that comes from like an egoless approach to where things are monetized, a humble acknowledgement that brands and agencies need flexibility, and that flexibility might even include budget alignment. If they're having a tough year, then coming over the top with a bully expectation that investment needs to grow, that's not a partnership. That is an abusive relationship. And that's not how brands like to be treated. It's certainly not how the Albertsons Media Collective moves with our partnerships, because the beauty is we all are striving for the same thing. So we find a lot of value in approaching things with that humble, tell us what hat you need us to wear in solving this problem for you, CPG.
Great. Well, we're almost out of time. So to wrap us up, we'd love to play a quick fill in the blank rapid fire round with you both. So I'll just give you a sentence and you guys fill in the blank. How about we start with you, Evan, and then Matt, you can jump in. Are you guys ready to play?
Let's go.
All right. So fill in the blank. The biggest trend right now in retail media is?
In-store still continues. It's been a couple-year journey now with in-store, but I think in-store and CTV have a lot of building left to do before I would say it's a perfected media channel. And so those two are going to be my answer. Channel expansion, in-store, and CTV.
Yeah, I was going to say in-store because that's next for America, but we've already nailed that over here, over across the pond.
You got to teach us the solution.
It's the kind of the off-site, kind of customer data connected channels, which for the UK market is the next big thing. But I agree with Evan, it's in store in the US.
Okay. The next big thing in retail media is?
I think it's relationship expansion, acknowledging all parts of the retailer. That can include logistics, distribution, certainly merchandising, site and app teams. All of those play such an important role for the brand to deliver what they want to deliver to their shopper. But we just talk about the media components. And so those other things are being worked on with more slow moving traditional relationships. I think if we brought that all to the forefront and put them into a biddable, almost like a programmatic entire retailer relationship, brought that to the table, the brands could see bigger opportunities, longer term investments, and start driving more of what they're looking for, which is not just impressions, clicks, incremental closed loop sales. It's also shelf space, end cap ownership, new brand launching, all of the merchant KPIs that they talk about with a separate meeting with that retailer. I think bringing all that to one table is the future.
I'm going to say everyone pretending they're a retailer because they think there's a money to be made here, and retail media is like everyone's going to invest in it. But the key differentiator is you need to have a relationship to be a retail media network, in my belief. And I'm not saying you can't be an environment that sells media space, but they've been around for years. Yeah. But if you want to be a retail media network, it's kind of like you've got to have a relationship with your customer, you know, that kind of that trust can be leveraged, but as long as you maintain that trust and you know do it in a relevant and customer relevant way. But everyone's just going to go, oh, we're a retail media network too, and you can spend money with us. So that's what I predict. Well, it's probably it's more of an observation than a prediction, I guess, given everyone's already done it. But hey,
no, I think. Oh, sorry, Cindy. I think, Matt, if you were to extend that, it's almost like an education layer. If you're a brand looking to invest, is the person who's pitching you owning the relationship with your shopper, or are they representing a point in time, like a piece of technology that sits in between the true relationship and you? And you know, it could call that like a grifter mentality. It could be like individual kind of sniper service providers, or just data aggregators that have retail data. It does not make them the retail media network. And if my prediction's true, it makes your prediction even stronger, because if we can bring the merchants and the logistics and the distribution conversation from the retailer to the table, now you can complete a full cycle of true strategic enablement, whereas the other folks who don't own the products leaving the shelves can't bring that next layer of innovation. That's an exciting thing to think about.
Great.
Sorry, Cindy.
No, it's okay.
it was quick fire round. This was
yeah.
really two people that like to talk.
You guys are just passionate. It's great. My biggest tip for brands activating in retail media is?
I think it's partnership. If you're waiting for this off-the-shelf world's best measurement solution and perfectly adopted standardization to happen on its own, it's not going to happen. I think there needs to be true partnership. It's a humble acknowledgement of what you can drive. But if you're a brand, you've got the money. You should be in the driver's seat for a lot of these things. And being able to have those healthy, open debates with your product leads at the RMNs or with your measurement leads at the RMNs to talk through, hey, I could do better if you could just provide this, this, and this. Get invested, understand what the roadmaps look like. Like you can have a seat at that table. A lot of RMNs do look for that client feedback. We've got some very healthy relationships with some of our top sellers in the store, and they love to give us advice. And once we got past that initial awkwardness of my oversharing, it's like, no, we're here to build products. My whole goal is to build a product that you like to buy. And if we're not having that direct open dialogue, maybe it doesn't include the final price tag or the contract, but just tell us what you want and we'll try to surface that in a way that you can be most proud to buy it. That I think is how CPGs and brands in general can shape RMNs into the future that best serves them. So partnership.
I'd say, yes, absolutely echo that. So I'm going to have to think of something different. I'm going to go with creativity. So don't forget about the creativity. I think probably the best campaign that that we've ever done. It's a big claim because we've done so many, but we did this amazing one for Toblerone where we made the dividers at the checkout, the thing that you put down between your shopping and the next person's, that guess what? They're triangular, just like a Toblerone bar. We said, don't forget Father's Day, and with made it look like a Toblerone. Toblerone have a real struggle that in a grocery store they're just not their brief in fact said salient. I had to look that word up. It apparently means relevant, or they don't, it's kind of, it means you can't you don't think about it. You ask people in an airport, everyone says Toblerone. Ask in a grocery store, last chocolate bar they'll mention, and that doubled their sales. So it made more customers aware of Father's Day, reminded them of Father's Day. They might have gone and bought a book, a DVD, a car accessory, whatever fathers get for Father's Day. But a lot of them chose to buy a Toblerone. It was kind of fun and engaging, and it kind of brought a smile to people's faces. So it kind of sold more stuff, sold more of the brand that invested, and kind of helped the retailer kind of make the journey relevant to many more shoppers. So kind of win-win-win. I think that don't forget the creativity.
Brilliant.
Great. Last one. In 5 years, retail media will?
Do you want to go first, Matt, so I don't steal your answer?
Whereas everyone else at retail media will be something. I've been at 25 years already. So hopefully sitting on a beach earning 20%. That's a die-hard movie reference. But no, if we work together, then it will be it will be massive. It will be the main way that CPG brands talk to their consumers and get interact and get trial, build loyalty, give relevant offers and make people aware of the new variants, etc., because there's that relationship through the retailer. So it's massive opportunity if we work together and collaborate to make it a really big thing. So it's such an exciting industry to be part of, which is why I'm still in it.
Yeah,
Great. Those are great response. Oh, sorry, Evan.
No, that was good. I would just add, I think the agency partnerships with retail media networks can evolve tremendously. We're seeing that happen with ad tech partners, so that'll continue to evolve. I think unification of a defensible ID graph that maybe has more broad adoption, we'll need to see some evolution there. But ultimately, it's more of a seamless approach to integrating all of these topics: generative AI, optimization, the 27 different channels that we can go invest in, all the RMNs that are at play. How do we more seamlessly build a future where that ecosystem is interchangeable, interoperable? Otherwise, we're all paying taxes with our engineering teams, with our privacy teams, by defining little unicorns, and that removes money from the market. And so ultimately, when we work together, when we build together, we can do better for our clients.
Those are great responses. Thank you both for sharing your expertise with us today, and congrats again on your Retail Media Award wins. Anyone tuning into this, we know that it's so well deserved. I hope to see everyone in Chicago and Retail Media Summit from June 25th through the 27th. If you're watching this across the pond, don't miss out on our Retail Media Summit UK event, hosted in partnership with SMG on October 16th. For the Path to Purchase Institute, I'm Cindy Loza. Thanks for tuning in.